I refused to buy my sister a Mercedes, so she banned my son from a birthday party. Hi, I'm Jonah, 36. And last week, I walked out of my sister's backyard barbecue with my 7-year-old son, a handful of juice boxes, and the kind of silence that comes right before a thunderclap. This started because I said no. No to buying my sister a luxury SUV. No to being the family's ATM with feelings. And her response? Then your son doesn't deserve to be at my kid's birthday. I wish I could say I was shocked. I wasn't. Not really. I've spent my whole life quietly cleaning up after people who treated me like a favor vending machine. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that love meant tolerance, that being family meant being available, always, no matter how unreasonable the ask. But that day, watching my son's face twist in confusion while grown adults laughed at him for being caught in the middle, I felt something shift. Something real. Something final. This is the story of how I stopped being a line item in my sister's budget and started becoming a boundary she couldn't cross anymore. Let's rewind just a little. I'm Jonah, music producer, part-time guitar therapist, full-time dad. Most people only know me by the songs I ghostwrite. But my real masterpiece? A 7-year-old named Eli who thinks a bowl of cereal with 2 different kinds is gourmet cooking. I grew up in a house where tension was served before breakfast. I was the older kid, the responsible one. The financial plan B before I even had a job. My sister, Lexi, was the star. The creative. The one who, when she got into trouble, needed understanding. When I got into trouble, needed to do better. When I landed my first platinum credit as a producer, I bought my parents a heat pump so they'd stop boiling in summer and freezing in winter. When Lexi bounced from one failed Etsy empire to the next, I paid her rent, her car note, her electric bill. Even helped design her logo once she hated it. Said it looked too financial. That stung more than I wanted to admit. And I kept doing it. Because I thought that's what family meant. You step in. You make it easier. So when Lexi called one Thursday and said, "Hey big bro, the Mercedes GLC in matte silver is totally me, right?" I didn't laugh. I waited. She wasn't joking. "They'll hold it if I wire $10K today," she said. "You make music money. You're fine." I said no. She thought I was bluffing. Until the group text lit up. My dad. Be a man. My mom. Your sister needs support. Lexi. Then Eli's off the guest list. Cakes for family. That's the moment something inside me snapped, not out of rage, but clarity. No problem, I replied. Everyone will get what they deserve. And they had no idea what that meant. The next day, I woke up early. Not for drama. Not for revenge, just to think. Eli was still asleep, curled into his dinosaur sheets with his foot dangling off the bed like he was in a cartoon dream. I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook, the old kind with a spiral spine and coffee rings already baked in from stress. At the top of the page, I wrote one word: enough. I didn't make some movie montage plan. I didn't cue up an emotional playlist. I made a spreadsheet. That's how it starts, when you've spent your life being helpful. You start tracking where the help went. Rent for Lexi, $1,800. Startup investment in luxury pet candles, $2,300. Braces for her son, even though she swore they had dental, $3,200. Monthly streaming, gym, even her website hosting on my card. All of it. I totaled it. Paused. Laughed once, not happily. The number was the kind of thing that would have changed my childhood. Fixed roofs. Stopped fights. Gotten us out of payday loan hell. Eli wandered in, rubbing his eyes. Are we still going to the party? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I just hugged him. Tighter than normal. We'll do something better, I said. He frowned. But Jace is my best cousin. And that's when I knew this wasn't just about me anymore. I'd let my sister weaponize my kid's heart like it was a bartering chip. And for what? A car? Control? A punchline? So I called Lexi. Straight up. Hey, she answered, already smug. Have the keys ready? No, I said calmly. And we're not coming. Click. She hung up. 10 minutes later, I got the first text. From my mom, Lexi's just hurt. Why punish the kids? Then my dad, you're being dramatic. Don't make your mother cry over this. Then my aunt, she was obviously joking. Just come for the cake. But here's the thing, they never called her dramatic. Never told her she was tearing the family apart. I was just the guy who was supposed to absorb it. Quietly. Predictably. I stood up. Got Eli dressed. Packed snacks, a cooler, a kite. Instead of going to the birthday party, we drove to the coast. Just us. Sand between our toes. Hot dogs from a food truck that tasted like pure sunshine. Eli made a new friend named Oscar who liked sharks and hated frosting instant bond. And while they built a sea monster from driftwood, I did something radical. I turned off my phone. When I turned it back on that night, there were 42 messages. A few guilt. A few threats. One from Lexi that just said, "Don't think this is over." But here's the thing. She was right. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next morning, I didn't check my messages. I checked my bank. And then I started canceling. One by one. Streaming service? Gone. Gym membership I'd never used but somehow paid for twice a year? Cancelled. Her cloud storage account? Off my card. I called the vet's office and told them to switch the emergency contact on Coco the Labradoodle to literally anyone else. I even pulled the plug on the Squarespace site I built for her last business, which hadn't been updated since 2019 but still had, coming soon, on the homepage. Lexi noticed within hours. First, a PayPal request. Reimbursement for lost data, $89. Then a DM. Are you seriously having a tantrum over a joke? But the kicker? A Venmo charge. Emotional labor, $500. With a unicorn emoji. That's when I laughed. Actually laughed. Like something cracked and the light finally got in. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new doc. Title. Terms. It wasn't a letter. It was a contract. A literal contract. Dear Lexi, you owe me $9,612.34. This includes rent, insurance, subscriptions, childcare, dental costs, and incidentals provided over the last 4 years. Starting next month, you will make monthly payments of $300. No interest. No penalties. Just responsibility. If you choose not to pay, I will consider the debt forgiven, but the relationship paused. Not as punishment. As peace. I CC'd my parents. Not to embarrass her. But to finally let them see the ledger. Then I silenced the thread. 3 hours later, my mom showed up at my place. Unannounced, like it was still 2003 and I was late for curfew. She stood in the doorway in her leopard print house slippers and grief-weaponized face. "We don't do this," she said. "We're family. We forgive." I let her in. Made tea. Sat across from her and said, "I forgave Lexi the first 50 times. This time, I'm enforcing a boundary." She stared at me like I'd said a slur in Latin. "But it's a birthday. You're punishing the children." "No, Mom. Lexi punished my son. She used him." You all laughed. She didn't respond, just stirred her tea like the sugar would save her. Eventually, she said, "What do you want?" And for the first time in 36 years, I told her. "I want you to stop measuring love by compliance. I want you to stop mistaking silence for support. I want you to stop asking me to bankroll peace you never earn." She blinked hard. Then said the quiet part out loud. "But Lexi. That was it. Their whole strategy in one shrug. Lexi breaks things. Jonah pays for them. Not anymore." I showed my mom the contract. She read the whole thing. Word for word. When she was done, she nodded. "I'll talk to your father," she said. Then added, almost to herself, "We let this go too long." It wasn't an apology. But it wasn't nothing either. That night, Eli drew a picture of a kite with me and him flying it. At the top, in shaky 7-year-old letters, it said, "Me and Dad. Just us." I tacked it to the fridge, right next to the contract. And for the first time in years, my house felt like mine. Lexi didn't sign the contract. She didn't even respond to it directly. What she did do was post a story. A full 10-slide carousel of self-pity, starting with a filtered photo of her sad eyes and ending with a quote in cursive script. "Some people only love you when you're useful. Protect your energy." My inbox lit up like a pinball machine. "Cousin Tara. Is this about you?" My aunt. "Did you really send her an invoice?" Even my old music teacher DM'd me. I don't know the context, but I support boundaries. Lexi's followers were rallying to her cause like I'd left her for dead on a desert island instead of Checks notes, turning off her free HBO Max. Then the phone call started. Dad first. You embarrassed your sister, he said like that was the crime. You turned a birthday into a protest. I didn't start this, I said calmly. But I'm finishing it. Then the bomb drop. Well, until you make things right, maybe it's best you and Eli don't come to Thanksgiving. Boom. There it was. Conditional love with a side of cranberry sauce. I didn't argue. Didn't yell. Just said, noted, and hung up. That night, Eli asked me why we weren't seeing his cousins anymore. I told him the truth, in 7-year-old language. Sometimes people try to get their way by making other people feel small. But we don't play those games. He thought about that. Is Auntie Lexi playing games? She's having a hard time understanding rules, I said. And when someone breaks the rules a lot, they need time out. Eli nodded like I'd explained a cartoon plot twist. Can we still have turkey? Oh, we're having the best turkey, I said. With stuffing and pie. I meant it. So I made a new plan. Thanksgiving would be ours. Just me and Eli. No sideways insults. No tension you could slice with a salad fork. No feeling like a stranger in my own family. I texted a few friends. Asked if anyone else wanted to skip the performance art of family holiday and just eat, laugh, and watch movies. By the end of the week, we had 10 people coming. Misfits, singles, divorcees, fellow boundary setters. We called it Friendsgiving 2.0. Lexi found out, of course. I know because she tweeted. Is it still a family if your brother invites strangers over while your parents cry over dry turkey? Asking for a narcissist. Which is rich coming from someone who once billed me for content exposure. Because she tagged me in a photo. But I didn't respond. Not online. Not in texts. Not through our mom who tried twice to play mediator with the phrase, "Can't you just be the bigger person?" I am, I said. That's why I'm not showing up. That Thursday, while my old family passed judgment over mashed potatoes, I was in sweatpants, watching Shrek 2 with my kid and a table full of people who didn't expect anything from me except an extra slice of pie. And somewhere between the second helping of mac and cheese and Eli's impromptu magic show, I realized something. Peace wasn't a gift they could give me. It was a door I had to build myself. And I'd finally found the key. 2 days after Friendsgiving, I got a text from Lexi that simply said, "You're ruining everything." That was it. No hello, no context. Just straight into accusation, like we were in the middle of a conversation that only she could hear. I stared at the screen. Ruining everything? Let's talk about everything. Everything was me bailing her out of a lease when she ghosted her landlord. Everything was me financing her launch party for a business that never launched. Everything was paying for a bachelorette trip I wasn't invited to but was apparently the backbone of. And now that the backbone had finally sat down, the whole house of cards was swaying. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled out a shoebox from the top of my closet. One that held years of uncashed thank you cards. Literal cards. Some still in their envelopes. Others crumpled, hastily written, signed. From all of us. Like I was a corporate donor. There was one from 5 years ago. A Mother's Day brunch Lexi threw for Mom and didn't pay a dime for. Inside the card. Thanks for making this happen, Jonah. You really saved the day. Again. Lexi. Back then, I thought that was affection. Now I saw it for what it was, acknowledgement laced with dependency. Later that day, I picked Eli up from school. He waved a piece of paper at me, face beaming. I made a gratitude tree, he said. Each leaf was a word. Dad, one said. Pancakes, another. Then, sleeping in our couch Fridays, and, hilariously, hot dogs but not mustard. Not one thing on that tree cost more than $5. Not one thing was about proving anything to anyone. That night, I stuck his gratitude tree on the fridge, right beside the contract Lexi never signed and the drawing of us flying a kite. The fridge was starting to look like a manifesto. Meanwhile, the extended family was stirring. Uncle Ken texted. You know she's been through a lot. Can't you let this go? I responded. I've let it go for 15 years. That's the problem. Then came a call from my cousin Amanda, who always saw the cracks before anyone else did. I just want to say, she said, that what you're doing, it's brave. Most of us just stay quiet and pay up. Yeah, I said. I used to be most of us. She paused. Well, if you ever need backup, I've got receipts. and a memory like an elephant. I smiled for real. Thanks, I said. Keep that memory handy. But even with the support trickling in, I knew the storm was still coming. Because people like Lexi don't lose control gracefully. They throw glitter on the fire and call it a healing circle. Sure enough, that Sunday, she made an announcement. Not to me. To everyone else. On Instagram, over pastel graphics and a harp instrumental, she launched her newest business venture. The Boundary Collective, emotional wellness coaching for high-vibe women healing from toxic masculinity and sibling narcissism. I nearly dropped my coffee. She'd turned me into a villain and monetized it. There was a subscription model. There were tiers. One called Platinum Phoenix, promise voice notes, worksheets, and live lunar check-ins. I scrolled through the comments. You're so brave. Turning pain into power. When's the first Zoom? I didn't text her. I didn't post a rebuttal. I closed the app, closed my eyes, and laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I finally understood. Lexi didn't want peace. She wanted an audience. And I'd just taken my mic off. By mid-December, Lexi's Boundary Collective was in full swing. She had a pastel color palette, a logo that looked suspiciously like the one I made her 2 years ago for her lash extension side hustle, and a bio that read, "Survivor of generational control patterns. Reclaiming my story. Guiding others through the fire." Apparently, the fire was me. The irony? She was finally making money off the same boundaries I was setting. Meanwhile, my phone stayed mostly quiet, except for one day when it buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months. Dad. Not a call. A text. Your mom wants to invite Eli for Christmas Eve. Just him. You understand. Just him. I stared at those 2 words like they were made of stone. I didn't respond right away. I went for a walk instead. Eli was at a friend's, so it was just me, a pair of headphones, and a December wind that felt more like March, confused, pushy, impatient. They wanted Eli without me. They wanted to keep the grandson and exile the boundary setter. I shouldn't have been surprised. This is how it always works when you change the rules mid-game. People start negotiating like you're a rental car agreement. When I got home, I sat on the couch and finally wrote back. Eli and I are a package deal. If I'm not welcome, neither is he. Let us know when the invitation includes both. That was it. No shade. No passive aggression. Just a full sentence with a locked door behind it. That night, Eli asked if we were going to Grandma and Grandpa's for Christmas. I told him no. That we were going somewhere better. He perked up. Disney? Better, I said. We're going to Aunt Sarah's. Sarah is my best friend from college. A single mom with 2 kids, a no-nonsense attitude, and a knack for turning chaos into cozy. Her kids love Eli like a brother. She's been my emergency contact for a decade. I called her. Told her what happened. She didn't hesitate. Bring pajamas, she said. And wine. 1 bottle for us, 1 for the pie. We got there Christmas Eve, arms full of gifts and ingredients. She hugged me at the door, looked at Eli and said, Hey, genius. Did you bring your appetite? He grinned. I brought my stretchy pants. That night, we played board games. The kids made a fort out of couch cushions. Sarah burned the green beans and we didn't care. When I tucked Eli in, he whispered, This is the best Christmas. I kissed his forehead. You deserve every second of it. Meanwhile, Lexi posted a TikTok of herself meditating in front of a ring light with the caption, Even when family cuts you off, your healing shines brighter. In the comments, Preach. Boundaries are love. Where can I get that robe? I smiled genuinely. Because for the first time, we agreed on something. Boundaries are love. And finally, she had some. Even if they weren't hers. New Year's Eve rolled in with the energy of a tired babysitter, loud, sparkly, and low-key begging everyone to go to bed by 10:30. Eli and I spent it with microwave popcorn and a YouTube countdown that ended 6 minutes early. He fell asleep with a party hat still stuck to his forehead. I sat on the couch afterward, scrolling, trying not to doomthink. That's when the email came in. Subject, Notice of Debt Acknowledgement, Lexi Grace. No text. Just a signed, scanned PDF. She'd filled out the payment plan I'd sent months ago. $300 per month, starting January 15th. No edits. No comments. Just her signature. Below it, a handwritten note in the margins. This is not an apology. This is an agreement. I read it twice. Then sat back. Was it petty? A little. But for Lexi it was progress. Accountability in her handwriting. I didn't reply. Not yet. I'd learned enough not to chase her into emotional alleys where every hug had a hook. Instead, I made a reminder in my phone, check for Lexi's payment, January 15th. I closed my laptop. The next morning, Eli padded into the kitchen in his dinosaur onesie, hair wild, eyes bleary. Is it next year now? Yep, I said. Brand new. He opened the fridge. Can I have waffles? Brand new year, same request. I teased. While the toaster hummed, he asked, will we see them this year? The others? Maybe, I said. But only if they're kind. He nodded, simple as that. Then, you're kind. I paused. That one hit. Right where it was supposed to. Thanks, buddy, I said. I try. That day, I took down the Christmas decorations. I vacuumed. I reorganized our junk drawer, which is my version of therapy. Then I did something small, almost silly. I opened a new savings account. Named it Eli's birthday. I don't mean the usual bouncy house and cupcakes affair. I meant a real party. One where no one uses guilt as RSVP. One where the cake doesn't come with conditions. And this time, I wasn't going to spend it wondering what my family would think. I was going to spend it watching my son be celebrated by people who saw him as a person, not a pawn. I texted Sarah. Help me plan a party. Theme, whatever makes him laugh. She replied instantly. Say less. Dinosaurs. Space. Robots. All of it. Max chaos. I laughed. Finally. The version of me who used to apologize for his boundaries would have cringed at that party. Too much noise. Too many opinions. Too many chances to make the family uncomfortable. But the version of me now? He was already picking out streamers. The payment didn't come on January 15th. Or the 16th. Or the 17th. On the 18th, I got a text from Lexi. Ran into some issues. Can't send anything until next month. Don't spiral. Don't spiral. Like I was the unstable one for expecting her to honor a plan she signed. Like the problem wasn't the broken promise but my reaction to it. I didn't reply. Instead, I added a note to my spreadsheet, payment skipped. No contact until March. That was the rule I set for myself, 3 skipped payments, and I stopped entertaining the idea of resolution. Not to be cruel. To be clear. Clarity is kindness, even when it feels like distance. That weekend, Eli and I went to the party store. He picked out dinosaur hats, space napkins, robot balloons, and a piñata shaped like a volcano. Because, in his words, if there's gonna be candy, it should explode. We got home and made invitations with glue sticks, stickers, and so much glitter I'm still finding it in my socks. I sent them to friends, neighbors, Sarah's kids, his favorite librarian, even his karate instructor. No blood relatives. For once, I didn't feel guilty. And still, the guilt tried to sneak in. A voicemail from my mom. Maybe you could invite Jace? He's been asking about Eli. You don't want to punish the kids. I sat with that message for a full minute before deleting it. Jace didn't get punished. He got protected. Protected from a family dynamic that used him as collateral. Protected from seeing his cousin be treated like a price tag. Eli didn't ask about Lexi. But he did ask if the piñata could have googly eyes. He wanted it to look silly and scared before it explodes. Done. On the day of the party, he woke up at 6:15 a.m. and sprinted into my room, shouting, "Today's the day." Like it was Christmas and the Olympics rolled into one. We set up everything ourselves. Sarah brought cupcakes with chocolate meteors on top. The robot balloons tangled into a kind of inflatable jungle. Kids screamed, ran, fell, laughed. Eli took it all in like he was storing joy in his bones. When it was time for the piñata, I handed him the stick. Ready? He nodded. Then whispered, "Thanks for this, Dad." One swing. Candy everywhere. Pure chaos. Pure joy. Later, after the last kid left and the cake was just crumbs, I found a note tucked under Eli's pillow. This was the best day. I want to be a dad like you when I grow up. I sat on the edge of his bed, blinking hard. And I thought, this is the legacy. Not money. Not forgiveness I never received. But the kid who never has to earn his place at the table. He's already there. The next morning, I got an alert. Lexi had unfollowed me on everything. Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, as if we were coworkers who disagreed on a quarterly report. No text. No payment. Just quiet, performative distance. And honestly, it felt like a gift. A vacuum. A moment to breathe. That afternoon, Eli and I went to the park. He brought his scooter. I brought coffee and a paperback I wouldn't finish. We stayed until the sun dipped behind the trees and his cheeks turned red from the wind. On the drive home, he said, "Jace should come next time. Maybe he misses me." I nodded. Maybe. And if he does, he'll find his way. At home, there was a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, a cashier's check for $300. And a sticky note. I said it wasn't an apology. But it is. No fanfare. No emojis. Just black ink on a yellow square. I didn't text her. I didn't gloat. I walked into Eli's room, kissed his forehead, and sat beside him until he drifted off. Then I went to my desk, pulled up the contract, and marked January paid. And for the first time in years, I felt like the balance wasn't in the money, it was in me. I wasn't a villain. I wasn't a victim. I was a father. And finally, a man with his own side of the story.